idea. And I said, I have absolutely no idea. Let me tell you what I do. I said, we go out into the world and we look at what's happening and we talk to people and we work with them, we co-create to come up with new ideas that are going to make their lives better, and we put those ideas out into the world. We make those ideas happen. And there was this pause, and somebody said, sort of sitting up here, I think that's what we're supposed to do as well. So the notion of design in the political system is not an unusual notion. I actually think it's an incredibly logical notion. And it's something that we're finding ourselves invited into now. We didn't get up one day and go, wouldn't it be great if we got into politics? Politics and government is inviting us into your world, and I'm very interested as to why. So I want to talk about that today. So essentially I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about this whole design thinking thing, because there's a lot of talk about it in Singapore. It's very popular here right now. And I want to talk about what it actually means and how you actually do it and the actual implications of it. And then I want to talk about what it means in terms of, as we just heard, how do you design these new solutions? How do you change behavior? How does this actually work when it becomes real inside a culture? So I'm going to talk about those two things. And we're very lucky. We've been invited to conversations all over the world. I get to talk on stages all over the world. I've been talking in Parliament. In various parliaments around the world. I've spoken in the Greek Parliament, in the Icelandic Parliament, in the UK Parliament. So again, this conversation is really, really interesting. The Obama administration seems to have adopted us as part of their kind of thinking methodologies. So we're working with them. So we're finding ourselves brought into some really interesting stuff. But first I want to tell a little bit about IDEO, just in case you're wondering who it does, who we are. We're quite well known here, but I just want to sort of give you a few quick facts. We're sort of at the forefront of this conversation about innovation. I think it's great that we're on the cover of Business Week. I actually think what's really interesting is that design is on the cover of Business Week. Design used to be this thing. I'm trained as a designer. I went to college. This says designer on my passport. I can't believe that we're actually having this moment. I think it's incredible. But the fact that we're now being asked to help businesses design their future, help design the future of increasingly large and more systemically complicated things is fantastic. Let me tell you how we do what we do. This is my first project I ever did at IDEO. So I speak from the heart when I tell you this story. We were hired by a large healthcare system in Minnesota, DePaul. And they asked us this question, what is our patient experience? They had been working with a large consulting firm, who shall be nameless, who had charged them millions of dollars to produce a 749-page document that looked like this. And this. In fact, I've made this joke several times. We used to call it the door stop because the air conditioning broke in our office and we used it to keep the door open in our project space so that we had air ventilation. So it did have a use at the end of the day. But they came to us, the healthcare system came to us, and they said this, is this stuff any good? And what do we do with it? And we said, no idea. Let's try. So 2 weeks later, I sat in the boardroom in Minnesota, and we presented a 7.5-minute film which looked like this. What is our patient experience? To say the CEO of the Minnesota Healthcare Administration was upset would be an understatement. He was furious. And he said, what on earth are you guys doing? And we said, well, this is Christian. He works at IDEO. He's a researcher. He's a human factors researcher. He was a patient. He faked spraining his ankle. And he was a patient in the system for a day. And he lay there on a gurney with a camera, and he looked at the ceiling, because that's what you do for a patient. And it was quite interesting to hear, during the course of this cut, several people say things like, who's he? Is he yours? I don't know. So, and I know I'm making light of this, but organizations spend an enormous amount of time and energy and money solving the problem, looking at it through their eyes. And they forget the human being in the middle. So when you hear about design thinking, it's very, very simple to me. It is about putting the person in the center. Human-centered is literally the human in the center. So from this point, we went and co-created, so again, a word you're going to hear several times from me, we co-created with nurses, with doctors, and with patients, in workshops that looked and felt like this. I think they're making some kind of new ambulance design together. I have no idea. Collaborative something there. Not particularly important what they're designing, but they're all working together. It's an ecosystem of people that are involved in the problem are solving the problem together. They're having fun, they're laughing, right? This stuff shouldn't feel like algebra. So here's some of the stuff that came out. There's a couple of ideas that I really like. Patient and a nurse, who were both part of this problem, designed this. This is a piece of cardboard, a tube like this, with a little tiny mirror that they bought from a bicycle store, a little round mirror that acts as a rear view mirror so that when you're being wheeled around on the gurney, you can actually see the person who's wheeling you and you can have a conversation so that they can check that you're not dead. This lady here was a nurse. She was incredibly frustrated by the fact that people were constantly stopping her, taking her out of her daily business and asking her for directions. Where do I go? Where's the x-ray room? Where's the blood room? Where's the pathology room? Where do I sit? What do I do? Where can I get a cup of coffee? So she was very frustrated. She said, we need a new role here. We need a guide. Somebody needs to be a guide here to help people get around this system. So she created this little outfit, this sort of Beyonce outfit for herself. It says guide, signifies very clearly that this is what she's doing. Patient said, I don't want to be left out in the corridor. I don't want to be left there in the common space. I want my room and the common space to be different. I want my room to feel like a hotel room, not like a hospital room. This is actually an implemented idea that they had. They changed the surface of the floor to wood in the room so that the rooms didn't feel like common space. And then finally, I'm sure we've all got these in our offices, we have whiteboards that you can write on almost every surface in our office. So again, this is an implemented idea. They put whiteboards in the hospital rooms so that if you were asleep or if you were unwell and your kids came to see you and they couldn't talk to you, they could leave you a message. Hi Mom, sorry we didn't get to see you on the picture. Now as a designer, as a professional designer, I don't look at this and go, wow, this is awesome design. As a human being, I look at this and go, wow, this is an awesome expression of human connection. And to me, that's what design thinking is. Design thinking is helping people connect as people. And the designer facilitates. You saw that workshop, design facilitates those connections to be made. So we took this into formal design, as we do, made it all look nice, basically the same ideas, created a nice framework and journey and all the usual tools that we create. But this is their chart. 35 ideas were implemented in less than 5 months, many of which were tiny. My favourite one is a patient Polaroid, patient photo. When you came in, they took your Polaroid because they wanted to engage with a person and not with a patient. So again, something as simple as taking someone's picture when they walk in and sticking it at the end of their bed so you remember that this is a human being. Again, that's very, very tangible to me. That's what tangible design thinking looks in people's life. So it isn't this academic process, it isn't algebra, it isn't calculus, it's stuff like that. And again, to this sort of big versus small thing, everybody is obsessed with big ideas. What's the big idea? What the idea is going to change the world? I firmly believe they don't exist. I think the big ideas are small ideas that are connected together. In this case, 35 of them. So small ideas. You'll hear this theme from me several times. Themes around scale, small, start, prototype, quick, speed, agility, all of these things, very, very important pieces of this. Here, we've done the same thing. So the Ministry of Manpower came to us and said, the EPSC, how do we make it more human-centred? Well, the first thing we had to do was we had to sort of look at the hospital grid. So here's a film that shares what it is to go through this process before we got hold of it. What did it feel like to go through this process as a regular consumer? designed for efficiency, of course, but actually in a lot of ways terribly inefficient. Okay? Now, it looks like this. Okay, you probably all know this, I'll show you shortly. So before, sort of efficient chaos, now design experience.
I think our expectation is we need for them to be able to measure us, at least with other world-class icons, like Changi Airport. We know that this is probably the first government agency that they come into after their arrival in Singapore, and we must at least be able to meet up to that expectation.
I'm assuming everybody's seen this, right? So I don't need to keep going here. I think everybody's already seen this. So the statistics are actually kind of interesting. So I know you guys have to measure KPI. We know those words and stuff as well here, right? The Work Pass division, which aims to be the best in the world at what it does, now benchmarks its consumer service against not only other government agencies, but also the top companies around the globe. Previously, the Work Pass division struggled to serve at least 80% of visitors within 30 minutes. Now, more than 95% of clients are served within 15 minutes, and 90% within 10 minutes. So again, by designing the experience so that people could actually understand it, we were able to create a different form of efficiency. So again, I don't think there's actually people always say to us, well, there's going to be a trade-off if we create an experience that's going to be less efficient. Well, the reality is you can have both. And so I think one of the key concepts that I'm throwing in the room here is the notion that Singapore generally needs to think about the notion of balancing efficiency and creativity. I think Singapore right now is very efficiency focused, and we need to start to think about how we balance that out.